Hi, I'm Esme Murphy, and welcome to Talking Points. Today I will be talking with an expert on internet grooming whose warnings include threats that your child's online activity could literally lead them to being groomed and kidnapped. Dr. Steve Webb is the author of Education in a Violent World, a practical guide for keeping our kids safe. He's a retired police officer and the superintendent of the Goreville, Illinois public schools. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start. What don't parents know? What are the anonymous messaging apps that they may not have heard of?
Well, the first thing the parents don't know is that even though apps may say they're good for teens or they're great for 12 and over, that's not necessarily the case. The case here is it might be something that was designed for somebody in that 12-year-old range, but if it's a dating app or a make friends app, the worst part about it is pedophiles and predators can enter that app and fake their name, fake their age. So what parents really need to know is kids can hide these apps. They can hide their numbers. They can hide their email addresses and make new apps in things called vaults or lockers, where it may look like just a basic calculator, and in fact, when they put in a code, it will come up with that they don't want you to see or apps that they don't want you to find. Parents, make sure that you understand what's on that phone because that's your phone.
What are the names of some of the apps that parents need to know are out there that may be hidden on their child's phone?
Sure. Well, some of the worst of them are anonymous apps. Any type of anonymous app does not need to be on your child's phone. A lot of times children will hide an Instagram profile. They might have Instagram and show you a profile that's innocuous, that's just kids being kids, and then have one that is on a different email that they may have spoofed a number and built themselves as another Instagram account. They can hide those things. Any type of sexting pictures they try to hide within these vaults. Parents, just to understand that there are three things you need to do. It's educate yourself on these apps, communicate the good, the bad, and the ugly of what you find, and eliminate the opportunity for predators to get to your child.
So it may be a mainstream app like Instagram, but it also could be something like Yik Yak, which I had never heard of, which was for a while banned, and now it's back. How does that work, and how can your child get lured by something like that?
Well, the problem with the programs like Yik Yak, and that's the world's worst because it's a geography based. You're getting cyberbullied by somebody that is in the vicinity. You know they're in the vicinity, but you don't know who it is. I mean, that's the worst of the worst. But there are all kinds of different
and your child doesn't know who it really is, right?
Correct. They're anonymous, but they know that they're in the vicinity. That you talk about worrying about what everybody's thinking that's in the room with you. I mean, these are terrible, terrible apps for the mental health of our children, but any anonymous app would be, because that allows predators the opportunity to get to your child.
And you are a retired police officer. You're in the schools. You're a superintendent. You've written this book. Let me ask you, my kids are out of the school years, thank goodness, but it was very hard. I really tried to police it, and in the end, I found that I couldn't. There was a struggle with one of my kids. I really had a tough time, as I think a lot of parents do. How can you really regulate what they're having access to?
Well, first of all, like I said before, that's your phone. More than likely, you bought that phone for them.
True.
They don't have any rights of privacy to that phone. Know what's on it. Know what's out there. Understand that if they've got 3 calculators, they're probably not using 3 calculators. 2 of them are probably vaults that they're hiding things. Don't be oblivious to the fact that your children may want to hide things from you because they don't want us in their world. And that's why I wrote the book, Education in a Violent World. Kids are finding their social niche outside of schools, outside of their church youth groups, outside of their other social groups that we grew up in, and they're bringing that baggage with them.
Okay. And kids are literally having online relationships that can lead to them being lured, or in some cases, even suicides and cyberbullying. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, one of the tactics that pedophiles use is they will establish a relationship with you, and then once that relationship is furthered, they will say, if you don't come out of the house and meet me, I'm going to kill myself, or I'm going to harm myself, or I'm going to do something outrageous, and that makes that person guilty if they were to do something, and they could have stopped that. That is one of the oldest tricks in the book. Understand that once these pedophiles get into our houses, into our homes, into our bedrooms, they are very good at grooming our children.
All right. You mentioned that the phone, of course, is the parent's phone. It's almost always the parent that buys it, has the contract and everything. But what about going to friends' houses? Because that was one of the problems I ran into when one of my kids was a teen, was that they had this access to things at other people's houses, or the computers, the tablets, they're everywhere.
Well, I think that brings us to the fourth area that you need to do, and that's advocate. You need to talk to the people and know the people that your children are going to visit. Understand what they allow, understand what they have in their households, and have that conversation with them before your child gets there. There are programs out there like Bark, and I don't endorse Bark necessarily, but it's a program that helps you monitor that online activity of your children. Just don't be oblivious to the fact that there are always going to be criminals trying to access your children because they're gullible, they're vulnerable. We have to do our jobs as parents to make sure that we're putting them in a position where they can't access them.
Right. And I had my struggles, but my kid turned out all right, but it was tough. But you mentioned a word that I had not heard of called vault. That's the way kids are hiding certain apps. Can you explain that?
Sure, the vaults and the lockers and the different areas where it looks like some type of app, like even a notepad, where you might peruse their phone and find that they've got a couple of notepads on there, or some kind of messaging app that looks old time, that you think, well, that may not be anything, but once they put in some kind of code, or they use their thumbprint or any type of access password, they can open it up to a hidden area. And Apple even lets you do that just with their services. You don't even need the Vault apps to be able to do that with Apple devices. So educate yourself on these things so you know that they're there, and let your kids know that you know that they're there. So
that's important. Let your kids know that you know. I think that's a very good point, because they assume you don't.
Yeah, well, and the last part of this is, whenever you talk to your children about this, don't hold back. Don't be that helicopter parent that doesn't tell them everything there is to know. You can mention Savannah Childress. She was on her school-issued laptop, and she was groomed by an individual claiming to be a 15-year-old. She was 14, and he was able to use that school-issued laptop through a program called Emerald Chat and lure her from her house. And the sad part about this is, when she got outside and she saw that he wasn't a 15-year-old, she still got in that vehicle because she was in shock. Wow. Talk to your kids about those specific instances and let them know you may think you're tough until you get into that position.
All right, Doctor, I saw that your book is on Amazon. I'm going to give the title again. The title is Education in a Violent World, a Practical Guide for Keeping Our Kids Safe. I assume it's available where books are sold.
It is available, and with this book, it's kind of an eye-opening for me too, because I didn't grow up in this era, and I really had to absolutely make myself start learning about it. And now I'm just engulfed in all of this social media world.
Well, I would think so, as a superintendent especially. Dr. Webb, thank you so much. That does it for this edition of Talking Points. Please email me with comments and suggestions at esme@cbs.com. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Esme Murphy, WCCO News.